which teach the living what's going to happen when they pass on. You have a chapter which is somewhat similar where you talk about what happens when the physical body dies. What can we expect?
Okay, a lot of people, they'll notice, this is how, a friend of mine just passed away too, and a lot of the audience members who are listening, yourself, George, have you ever seen someone or you've been with someone who was towards the end of their life and they're at death's door, if you want to say, and all of a sudden they spring back, all of a sudden, and people's like, oh my God, they're getting better, when in fact, what I think is happening, the soul is revving up to have enough strength to leave the body. Now, I don't want people to think if their loved one is sick, they're getting better, then they're going to go. They could be getting better, but usually the spirit, it vibrates so it can leave the body. But I did this chapter because a lot of people have watched people pass away, George, and they're troubled what they see here. So I wrote about it because I want people to know what the person experiences. When they see the person having a hard time, that's the body releasing, shutting down. But I want people to know that when they pass away, no one ever, George, whether it's a slow passing or a fast passing or a tragic passing, nobody goes home alone. Your loved ones or people on the other side, they do come and get you. And, they help the person. I don't know if they're given energy or what, but it's I wrote it so people aren't afraid when they watch this. And, George, have you ever been with someone before they passed?
You mean like within minutes?
Yes.
I think the closest I've been is about a week.
Right. Okay. So you weren't you were never there when someone actually left the body.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite an experience, and your listeners will know this. A lot of people, it's a sad time, but for some people, the most peaceful time. And something happens in that room. A lot of people who are about to pass away, maybe a week before, a couple of days, they start talking to people who aren't there. And, the doctors will say, oh, yeah, it's the medication or the hallucinogenics. They're not on hallucinogenics. And if it's always the people who have passed away, if they're hallucinating, George, I got to ask you, why is it that they're always seeing someone who's passed away? They're not hallucinating someone who's alive, like a partner. So I know people don't go home alone. And
Good
I give
point.
a whole chapter. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a great section in there by David Kessler, who's the #1 bereavement expert in the country. He's the one that they call on all these sites. He's a colleague of mine. He did a story in there that actually kind of proves that it's not hallucinogenics. And, I could get into that, but maybe later on in the show I'll tell you about that story if you want it.
Okay, and when one goes to sleep, John, you're awake at one moment, then you're asleep, and nobody really ever remembers that moment they fell asleep. They just go. Is dying a little bit like that?
I think it is, George. I really do. I really, really do. When my mom passed away, of course, I have no regrets because I talked to her about what it was going to be like. She goes, now tell me, Johnny, what's going to happen to me? She knew she was going to pass. I said, Ma, your oxygen levels will go down. They'll help you with the morphine. And she goes, I'll just go to sleep, won't I, Johnny? Like I'm sleeping. I said, yes, Ma, absolutely. And I was there, and I did feel her loved ones come into the room, and so did other people. But it's peaceful. It's really, really peaceful. George, what was the original question? I beg your pardon.
Well, is dying like going to sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people think it's painful. I think it's one of the most peaceful experiences, even though the body may not show that. It's like slipping from one room right into the next. And a lot of people don't realize, George, when you sleep, it's very, very important for sleep because not only is your body rejuvenating, your spirit is also on the other side rejuvenating in the spirit world, but you're still connected to the body. You know about the silver thread, George, that connects us all.
Right, like the umbilical cord thing, right?
Absolutely. And then it comes back into the body. And a lot of people understand this. Just before they go to sleep, they shake, or they suddenly or just before they wake up, there's like they're
You're jolted.
Awake.
You're jolted.
Exactly, and it can be scary for people. So, I'm sure doctors or scientists would say, well, that's restless leg syndrome. I believe it's the body the spirit coming back in, or just about to leave, and you caught it. So, I wrote that section too, just like sleep.
Yeah, I believe that too. I've always believed that jarring effect is the astral body coming back into the physical body.
You're a wise man, George Norrie. You really, really are.
I studied a lot. I also, know that the umbilical cord, which is connected to your astral body and your physical body, is so elastic. It can go until almost the end of time.
Absolutely.
But when you die, it's severed, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's what they say. And, with the whole book, too, George, I use a lot of personal experience, too, and I say to people, look, you really don't know what the other side is like until you go there and what happens. And luckily, because of the work that I'm blessed to know a lot of colleagues, George. I really, really am. I talked a lot with people who have died and have come back and were resuscitated. Fascinating now that more and more stories, people aren't afraid to come back now and see, to talk about what they experienced, like my friend Anita Morjani, who went to the other side, had stage 4 cancer with tumors the size of tennis balls. She comes back. Her father says, if you go back, you have another mission, automatic remission. The doctor still can't figure out what happened to her. So it's amazing.
You mean physically her cancer was gone?
Gone. And she was on Dr. Oz, and I saw this piece, and he says, I have to see the records. I have to see these records. And sure enough, he's reading them, and when she's on, the tumors have shrunk. She's around her family at the hospital. Her family's around the bed, and the doctors came in. This is in Hong Kong, and they said, we have bad news. And they said, what? We can't find the cancer. And she says, and the family's like, what's wrong with that? Why?
Why is that bad news?
Well, because the doctor says, we don't understand it, but we'll find it.
Yeah, they figure something was wrong, right?
They did, absolutely, and it's been years now, so it's amazing. So, I do get stories from people who have passed over and who have come back. So, that's Dr. Raymond Moody's work. So,
and welcome back, John Holland with us, his new book that just came out, Bridging Two Realms. John, our dearly departed, when they try to communicate with us, are they trying to let us know that they're okay, or are they trying to convince themselves they're okay?
Good question. No, I think a lot of people, I just talked about this too on the TV show that came out yesterday, where we're so bereaved, they try to get our attention all the time. Basically, the message that they want to let you know is, I love you, I'm okay. But we're so grief-stricken, or after-death communications, the signs that they send us, George, we explain them away all the time. We just wave it away as coincidence, or it can't be. Right. But they're trying to let you know, look, I'm okay. So, and my tagline is, they want to talk to you as much as we want to talk to them.
At what point do they stop communicating?
Good question. I have a half sister that passed away. Never heard from her from another medium, and also an aunt who passed away years ago. And it's strange. I never really get great grandparents. It's the people that are in your life now. So, are they going higher and the need is not there? Can they not communicate? But I don't know if there's a time limit. George, I think there's more of a need of the person here. The love that connects us is the bridge to the other side. So I don't think there's a time limit, but I find some people think, well, maybe they've reincarnated. Well, I have another belief in that, too. I don't believe that if a mother passes away, she's reincarnated and you can't connect with her. I believe the soul is multidimensional. It's here, it's in the past, it's in the present, it's somewhere else. It's, and I liken it to like a computer. Like the George Noory program is playing right now. You have an oversoul, the bigger part of you. And when your soul passes away or leaves the body, it's going to go back to the oversoul, and another piece of that soul will come out and play out another life. But the memories of George Noory and all that he experienced here and the people he loved is there to be accessed. Then you're talking like the Akashic records and stuff too. So, yeah. So I don't believe there's a time limit or reincarnation. I do believe in reincarnation, but I don't think it's a recycle bin. So. I don't think there's a time limit, George.
If your loved ones haven't communicated with you, I lost a father and a sister several years ago, John, pretty close to each other in terms of timing, but they really haven't communicated with me. I haven't picked that up yet. What does that mean?
How big is the need, George?
Well, we were close, though separated by distance, of course. Right. But it wasn't one of those situations where we needed answers or anything like that.
Absolutely. I believe that they know that you believe in this, George, that they know that you're okay. I believe also that just because they haven't heard from someone doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean that they haven't tried. A lot of people, which I explain in the book, Bridging Two Realms, we try to demand what we want from the other side. There's lots of signs that they give you. So you might be getting a sign and you're not even noticing it or paying attention.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you call DBVs, deathbed visions?
Deathbed visions, yeah. That's the part where I talked about where people see people who have passed away on the other side before they pass. Now, I don't want people who are listening, well, my mother sees people, or my grandmother. It doesn't mean they're going. They could be clairvoyant. After-death communication are the signs, deathbed visions, DBVs. That's what people experience before they pass away. And earlier in the interview, I talked about David Kessler's story. I'll tell you that one really quickly.
Okay. He's the bereavement guy, right?
Yes, he's the bereavement guy. Yeah, he's always on the news when there's tragedies to help people over their grief. And he worked for 3 palliative care hospitals in California. There's a woman. She gets very bad diabetes. I think it's diabetes, and he let me put this in my book. She goes into the hospital. Her husband is already in a place for Alzheimer's. He has full-blown Alzheimer's, and she couldn't take care of him, so he's being taken care of at another facility. So, funny enough, her health starts going downhill, and she's about to pass. Okay, I don't know for a long. It's in the book. She starts to pass, and before she passes, the daughter's in the room, and the doctor or the nurse. And she says to the daughter, the mother, "Oh, your father's here." And she's like, "Mom, no. Remember, Dad's across town at the home. No. He's here right now, and he's saying that everything's going to be okay, and I'll see him soon."
Oh, geez.
And she's like, "Oh, she must be
hallucinating, right?"
Yeah, absolutely. The daughter said that. Sure enough, George, the phone rings 5 minutes after she says that. Little did anybody know, the husband just passed away.
Yeah. Oh.
See, so explain that. I mean, it's kind of, you can't really, and people will be like, well, no. I mean, my mom saw someone before she passed away, and she's on a hospital bed, and I said, she's sitting up. She says, "Johnny, guess who came to me today?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I named everybody I could alive, all the kids, cousins, and she's like, "No, Wayne." Wayne was a guy, a soldier who she was in love with, who she was supposed to marry before my dad. We didn't know all this. And he came to her and said, and I said, "Well, what did he say?" And she said, "Jenny, I'm just here to check on you. Everything's going to be fine." If someone who is listening right now, George, if someone is experienced this with a loved one who's about to pass, ask the person who's there, who's saying this to you, the person who's going to pass, who is it? What are they saying? And you'd be surprised who they come through, and it's usually someone always who's passed. Another thing, too, people will notice, too, George, when people are about to pass, they start raising their hands. They start reaching up with their arms, and someone thinks, "Oh, what are they doing?" They're reaching because someone else is reaching down or reaching over from the other side to help them. Or people stare off into space in the corner of the room, George. And a lot of the people think that, there must be, it's the drugs. But what I love, it's when you have hospice workers and nurses, they're the ones that are validating that this happens all the time. The doctors, bless them, they try to explain it away medically or scientifically. But deathbed visions, when someone sees someone, it's very comforting. Not only is it comforting to the person who's passed, it's comforting to the people who are witnessing the passing. Oh, mom came to get my wife, or her mother came to get my wife, or my grandmother came to get my child. It's very comforting to those that are here.
When Steve Jobs from Apple Computer died, apparently his last words were, "Oh, wow. Wow." Mm-hmm. What do you think he was seeing?
He was probably seeing the light, or someone came one of his relatives came to get him. I really believe that. Yep, I mean, it's beautiful. And a lot of people, when they pass away, there's a peacefulness on their face, too. And, of course, the doctors may say, well, that's the muscles relaxing now, too. It's, like I said, that's why I wrote, the book for the bereaved, too, is to help people, look, they're okay. A lot of people, George, ask me, it's the number one question, are they okay? With angst in their voice. And I'll be like, they're fine. We're not.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not, and that's your real home. And, John Edwards said this once, too. A lot of people, George, say, well, if the spirit world is so nice, why don't we just all go there? Because that's our real home. No. what he said was beautiful. The other side is not meant to be an invitation. The other side is not meant to be an invitation. You've got your work that you do here. There's no escaping what you're supposed to be doing here, George, while you're incarnate in the body.
So you've explained deathbed visions. What are ADCs, after-death communications?
After-death communication. It's the things that, it's signs from your loved ones, people who have passed. And Judy and Bill Guggenheim, they're the ones who termed that after-death communication. They did a study, I think, of 3,000 interviews around the world, and many, many more, and they chose one. And it's the statistics of people that have had signs from their loved ones, so it's after-death communication. And there's many ways. The number one way, George, that they come through, and I'll give you a few of them. Number one way that they come through. George, have you ever dreamt of a loved one?
Yes.
That's passed?
Yes.
Okay. Usually in those kind of dreams, the real after-death communication, a real ADC dream is they're younger, the person, they're happy. It's usually a fast dream, and a lot of people have had the hugging dream where they got a hug from someone on the other side. That happened to me with my mom. I didn't get the dream for a year. I didn't demand it, but there she is, younger, and she's healthy, and I'm looking at her in the dream, and I said, Ma, and she's like, Johnny, and I'm like, and then we hugged, and I woke up with tears in my eyes. If someone's having a dream, George, and they're in torment, or they're crying in the dream, and there's some kind, there's drama, that's probably going through the bereavement. A real after-death communication, it touches you on a soul level. A lot of people, George, they find pennies, shiny pennies and dimes. It's never dollars,
really?
Never quarters. Yep, they're called pennies from heaven, and they're always shiny. And someone may say, but everybody finds change. No, I'm talking about the penny you found on the bed you just made, the sink you just cleaned, the pillow that you just fluffed. I think it's their way of saying, I'm here, because they don't want it to be too, it's very, very subtle, these signs. A lot of people have smelled their mom's cologne or their
I hear that a lot.
Absolutely. It's very subtle. I had this one woman, it was a big venue of 1,000 people, and I said, who here has had one? And she raised her hand. She goes, can I ask you something, John? And I said, yeah. She said, on the anniversary of my mom's passing, she said, my whole house filled with the scent of roses. Now, she lives on the East Coast. We get a lot of storms here. In the month of December, on the anniversary of her passing, her mother grew prize roses and would always win the blue ribbons. On the anniversary of her passing, the whole house filled with the scent of roses. And I got so excited. I went over to the edge of the stage on my knee, and I took my hands, and I went, what do you think that was, Darling? She goes, I thought it was the Glade Solid from the neighbor. I said, darling, do you think that air freshener would go through the storm, through the winter, into your house? She goes, I had no idea what it was. That's her mother's way of saying it really is me. Another way, too, is some people may keep seeing the same numbers, or you may be thinking of your dad. Just when you're thinking of them, you turn on the radio, there's his favorite song. You're thinking of your mom, and just when you're thinking of her, you see a license plate. Now, my mom's name is Jenny. I'm just thinking of her. I may look up, there's a license plate right in front of me, Jen, Mom. It's, it's synchronistic signs. They can put you in the right place, the right time. Electricity is big with them, George. Huge. Technology is big because they're made up of energy.
That's right.
Yep, energy cannot die, just simply transform. It's easy for them to manipulate energy. Lights will blink, televisions will go off suddenly, but something like that, we explain it away. But it's easy for them to manipulate energy because there's a lot of energy here. A lot of people, George. Now that I have bigger audiences, so what's great is I'll say, who here has gotten a phone call from a loved one who has passed? You'll see some hands go up, and people are like, what are you talking about? A lot of people, they got these, smartphones. Their person's number who's passed away is in there. The phone will ring. They see the names. The person comes up who has passed, and when they answer it, it's static. No one's actually said they got a real voice, but it's static. So they know how to get our attention, George. Trust me, there's many signs. Nature is big. Cardinals, ladybugs, hummingbirds. They know how to do this. And one last one, a lot of people who have lost someone, they may look across a store or a car beside them and see their loved one. It's almost like the other side is transfixing themselves, not possession, okay, not that. They're almost like you're looking at someone, and then when you look really closer, suddenly it doesn't look like them. So after death communication, it's loved ones, it's you getting your own experience. And you know it's real, George, because it touches your heart, it touches your soul. And all they want you to know on the other side, once again, is I'm okay.
I'm okay.
If you get one of these signs, just say, thanks, Mom, thanks, Dad, because a lot of people say, well, what's the message? I love you. I love you. And some people may feel someone's loved one right beside them, George, and then we explain it away. They may say they lose someone right after the next day. They say, oh, my God, I feel like they're still here, because they are, George, trying to comfort you, but we're so bereaved. So after-death communications, fascinating stuff. Watch for the signs, people. Don't demand them.